Life sometimes come at you fast. Tragedies make your life unravel. You feel like you wanna give up and stay knocked down. Even when your heart is shattered, you still got a life to live. You still got a life to live, so don't give up. We are beautiful miracles. We are beautiful miracles. We are beautiful miracles, so don't give up.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today on my podcast, Beautiful Tragedy. If you like what you're hearing, would you please like, comment, share, and subscribe? In today's episode, I wanted to share some wonderful books that we used in our journey with Ivan after experiencing the death of his brother. There are basically no books available specifically for siblings, but there are quite a few books available to discuss death and just to give kids an understanding as much as they possibly can. I would say that these books are all pretty much focused on maybe 3 to about 8. There's plenty of books available for teenagers. You know, it needs a little bit more explanation for young kids because developmentally they just don't always grasp the concept. So the first book I want to talk to you about is called I Miss You. The author is Pat Thomas. You can find it on Amazon. It's a first look at death, and it really just lays out that everyone who's born dies. And it talks about after a person dies, there's a ceremony called a funeral, and they talk about kind of what you do at a funeral. And it actually asks the child to talk about their feelings. It says, what about you? After someone dies, it's normal to feel sad, angry, guilty, afraid, and even happy. What are you feeling? So it really gives an opportunity to have a back and forth conversation to help the child understand as much as they possibly can. So this has been an absolutely wonderful book for Ivan. It's really helped him a lot. Another one that I have really gotten a lot from is called Someone I Love Died by Christine Harder Tangvald. This is actually a book that we have included in the grief bags that we provide to children whose sibling has died. Again, this is actually has a Christian background. So if that's what you're looking for, this is a wonderful book for that. On the back, it says, when children lose a loved one, they might feel sad, angry, or confused, but death can be hard to talk about. This very special book is just for kids and contains words to help them understand their loss, answers to their questions about heaven, and illustrations to guide them through this difficult time. Interactive pages encourage children to draw how they feel and allow them to process their grief in a tangible way. When they're done, this book becomes a special keepsake that helps them remember the person that they loved. So this is another wonderful book. And this is another Christian book. It says, I Wonder What You Would Do on Your First Day in Heaven. It's a thoughtfully written book illustrated. It's a thoughtfully written and illustrated book that offers consolation and hope to anyone who has experienced the loss of a loved one. It's a book about birth and celebration, death and grief, wonder and hope. So, you know, if you talk to your child about heaven, this is a wonderful book. I'll read a couple snippets. Okay. Well, sorry about that. One day, a child was born. The child was healthy and happy and grew to be bigger and bigger. The child lived and laughed and loved, but one day the child felt sick and grew sicker and sicker. The child tried to get better but couldn't. And one day the child died and passed away into heaven. So I'm just going to show you some of the pictures. They're just very simple but beautiful. And a lot of times that's really what a child needs, is something simple. You have to be careful not to give them too much information. Because children have a small capacity of being uncomfortable, and this isn't a topic that's uncomfortable. That doesn't mean don't talk about it. It just means know that they might say, okay, that's enough. And it's important, I feel, to respect that also. This one is something that you can personalize. It's called The Memory Box, a book about grief. It's written by Joanna Rowland. And there's kind of a theme throughout the book where there's a red balloon. And, that's kind of basically after the death, the balloon goes away. And it's on the back, it says, "I'm scared I'll forget you." From the perspective of a young child, Joanna Rowland artfully describes what it's like to remember and grieve a loved one who has died. The child in the story creates a memory box to keep mementos and written memories of the loved one to help in the grieving process. Heartfelt and comforting, the memory box will help children and adults talk about this very difficult topic together. The unique point of view allows the reader to imagine the loss of any they have loved, a friend, family member, or even a pet. So this is also a wonderful book. And actually, one of my absolute favorites is called Lifetimes. It's a beautiful way to explain death to children. It's written by Brian Maloney and Robert Ingpen. And what I like about this book is that you can have this book in your library, whether or not you've experienced a death. It's a great way to really explain to children that everything that lives dies. So plants live and they die. Trees live and they die. Animals. And so they kind of lay it out that way. And then they talk about people live and they die. They only have a certain lifetime. And when I read this book to Ivan with no prompts, when we got on the page that talked about people live and they die, he said, that's what happened to Jackson. And so it was an easy conversation. So really, this is a book that I would highly recommend for you just to have in your library at any time. When Jackson died, I was desperately looking for anything I could to help Ivan understand. And most of the time, reading these books, they give the child a little bit of an understanding, but really they help aid the conversation for the adult, because this is hard to talk about. And a lot of people avoid this subject. I personally don't think that avoiding talking about this is a good idea, because at some point in life, everyone is going to experience loss, whether it's, a pet, a parent, a friend. And I just really feel that laying this foundation is important. And so, if you have other books that you've found that you think are helpful, I would greatly appreciate if you would share them with us. I think people are always looking for these kind of resources. So I didn't know what I was doing before all this, but I'm learning, and I want to share what I've learned with others so that when you're in a situation where you need help, you have some place to turn. So we do the best we can until we know better. And then when we know better, we do better. So thank you.